and he asks the class that, he explains to them that what is a good doctor. So the class says that a good doctor is one who feels the patient's pain. I'm treading on dangerous territory because I know there are some doctors here also. But I'm just narrating the movie. So in the movie he says that I need to feel the patient's pain. So what does the character, the doctor, the Boman Irani, what does he reply? He says it's not about feeling the patient's pain. It's about curing it. Correct? So this is what happens when you manage your own money versus going to a professional. Because what he says is, when I'm operating my own daughter, it's difficult to be a professional. I would be worried. Correct? But any other patient is just a patient. It's my job. I do 20 surgeries in a day, I'll do one more. Correct? So it's the same thing about managing money. When it comes to managing money, people have emotional reactions. I'll explain you some of these emotional reactions. When it is coming to putting your money in a deposit which gives you 8%, the only emotional reaction you can have is that my neighborhood bank gave me 7.5, but if I went 5 kilometers away, I would have got 8.5. So that's about it. There's not much to it. But when you talk about the option giving you 20%, more often than not, there is a lot of emotional engagement with the involvement. I'll tell you 3 or 4 examples. So what I've seen is that more often than, when I'm talking about this 20% option, typically these are stock market related or equity related investment. That is why I clarified there is no credit risk, but it can keep fluctuating up and down. Correct? So what happens is, this is the only thing. It's been my profession for many years now, and unfortunately the biggest difficulty about my job is that when it comes to these investments, people never buy it at a discount. People never buy it on a sale. So I don't know, I think in this complex there must be a Shopper Stop or a Lifestyle or any of these kind of showrooms. Correct? There will be. Yeah. So every once in 6 months, they'll put up a big board saying off season, 50% discount. And you will find that there will be many people who will have, let's say, 3 black trousers at home, but then they'll see Arrow or Louis Philippe or Van Oysen or whatever, Raymond or whatever their favorite brand is. And if it says that 30% discount, they'll go and buy one more black trouser if they don't need it, even if they don't need it. Correct? So whenever it comes to buying these kind of things, or for example, when you go to Big Bazaar on a Sunday and you're generally strolling around and you are buying grocery and juice and soaps and shampoos, you'll find out people coming out with big trolleys, as if for the next 1 year they are just going to be drinking and eating shampoo, that kind of stuff. If it is at a discount, people will just fill up the trolley completely. Correct? But when the same banner, when we say 50% off, if you put it on Bombay Stock Exchange or something, or National Stock Exchange, instead of coming there, people will run away. Nobody buys it at a discount. These are emotional reactions. What happens is, when it comes to investing in markets, people normally invest after hearing a lot of stories. And the biggest mistake people make is people invest after reading newspapers. Reading newspapers. One thing you should know about reading newspapers. News. There is a difference between the word news, N-E-W-S, news, and the word views, V-I-E-W-S. People always interpret news as views. It's not true. The newspaper only writes what is there. And when does a newspaper write whatever it writes? When do they write? Sorry? After it has happened. After it has already happened. जो होना था हो गया, उसके बाद अखबार में छपा, फिर लोग उसके ऊपर, then people actually react to it. Correct? You should never react to news. You should be in a position to either react only to views, or more importantly, better than that, form your own views yourself. There's a difference between news and views. Okay? As we go along, I'll give you 3 or 4 examples of that also. Right? But I'll come to that later. So why do we need advisors is what I was deliberating, and that's where I mentioned that you need advisors because they are professionals. They can advise you dispassionately. They don't get emotionally involved. Like they can buy, if needed, they can buy at a discount. Whereas most people react emotionally, they run away when it is at a discount. There's another common mistake which people make. I'll give you that example. How much time do we have? 5 minutes. Yeah. There's another common mistake which people make. I'll tell you. Let's say you have 200 rupees. Okay. And this 200 rupees you split it into two parts, 100 rupees each. Let us say the first stock or whatever you bought, the 100, after a year, you are evaluating the performance. Let us say the first thing that you bought, the 100 has become 125 value. And the second item which you bought for 100 rupees, that 100 has become 80 after 1 year. If you suddenly have a need for money, which one will you sell? Sorry, sir? 125. How many of you will sell the stock which has gone from 100 to 125? And how many of you will sell the stock which has gone from 100 to 80? So that is the question. The point is that there is a little bit of a trick. You are getting confused with the numbers. When 100 becomes 125, who told you that 125 can't become 175? And when 100 becomes 80, they only want to take it with appreciation or at least at the 100. Normally people have this emotional attachment that I can't go wrong and I can't make a loss. Whereas in reality, just because you bought it at 100, the guy has to come back to 100. There's no happen to come at 100 doesn't mean that if it goes to 80, it has to come back to 100. There are chances that it will come back to 100, but there are chances that it will take a lot of time to come back to 100, and actually when you bought it, you might have made a mistake. Now, because you don't want to stop a loss, because you don't want to recognize that mistake and here, but who told you that 125 can't be 150? Why brilliant? You could have made a fantastic decision, right? But you just nipped it in the bud. So this is another example. First example was people never buy at a discount. Second example, people are more likely to sell the thing which is giving them the profit than likely to cut their losses. And neither of them is right or wrong. I am just telling you what tends to happen. The other thing which people more often than not also do is that they think that they are the best manager for their money. It's not true. As a professional, you might be a doctor or a lawyer and an engineer, and your expertise does not necessarily translate into managing money. You may be an expert at what you are doing, but there are other people who are not as good a doctor or a lawyer as you, but they have some belief whereby they can actually manage money. Correct? So, when you can out your money. And the last point about stock markets, FIs, etc. This is the last point I am discussing, then I just have to show you a couple of charts and then we are done. So this is the last point on stock markets and FIs. People have a lot of notions about how the stock market works. A lot of times people say it is completely speculative. A lot of times people say it is a lot of gambling. A lot of times people say there is no science behind it, it is just random. So what does actually the stock market consist of? What is it composed of?